Motorcycles, cars, music, three things that I grew up in, and I'm blessed enough to be able to continue.
Danny Koker's show, Counting Cars, seemed to have it all: roaring engines, incredible custom builds, and a team that felt like a family. Yet, behind the cameras, not everything was as it appeared, and not every team member stayed. One by one, familiar faces vanished from the show with no explanation or goodbye. Some walked away quietly, others were pushed, and a few left behind rumors that never quite disappeared. What really happened inside Count's Customs when the cameras stopped rolling? And why did some team members leave at the peak of the show's success? Was it pressure, betrayal, or something else? The truth changes how you see the show forever. The rise of Danny Koker and Counting Cars. Every business has its challenges, but for Danny Koker and his empire, the stakes were higher. When your brand relies on custom builds and loyal employees, even a small crack can cause everything to crumble. Danny Koker has always been extra cautious about challenges and tensions in his garage, because Count's Customs isn't just any business. It's his lifelong dream. Long before he became a reality TV star, Danny was a kid with a dream and a passion for restoring cars, upgrading them, and giving them attitude. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, and raised in Detroit, Michigan, Koker's early years were deeply influenced by the city that gave birth to America's automotive industry. Detroit wasn't just where he lived, it was part of his DNA. Unlike most kids, Danny didn't have to wait for adulthood to start working on cars. His father, Danny Koker Sr., was a musician who performed with legendary groups like the Cathedral Quartet and the Rex Hurd Family Singers. But when he was home, he spent countless hours in the garage with his son. That garage became Danny's first classroom, and by the time he was a teenager, Danny was already fixing cars and giving them a new story. But Danny Koker's story didn't stop at cars. In the early 1990s, he built a local following in Las Vegas as Count Cool Rider, a late-night horror movie host on a small TV station. Clad in leather, sunglasses, and a signature bandana, he introduced B-movies with a rock and roll flair. It was campy and fun, but it gave Danny a platform and television experience. When he launched his own garage, Count's Customs, it was never meant to be a huge empire. In fact, Danny started it for practical reasons. He needed a place where he wouldn't have to wait in line to get work done on his own rides. But what began as a small shop tucked away in an industrial stretch of Las Vegas slowly became something much bigger. Danny's style of classic restorations with a rebellious twist immediately drew attention. Together with his team, he turned everyday vehicles into works of art, and soon, word spread quickly about Count's Customs. Then came the break that changed everything. In the late 2000s, Pawn Stars exploded onto the History Channel. The show, also set in Las Vegas, featured the Harrison family running the gold and silver pawn shop. Danny Koker was brought on as a regular car and motorcycle expert. Viewers immediately noticed his edge, humor, and credibility. Every time he walked into the shop, fans wanted more, and the producers noticed too. In 2012, Counting Cars debuted as a spin-off series focusing entirely on Danny, his custom garage, and the wild builds rolling in and out. The show wasn't just about restoring classic cars, it was about loyalty, vision, and the people behind the machines. Each episode showed a different project. From a beat-up Mustang turned showpiece to a Harley Davidson reimagined with flames and chrome. At the center of it all was the passionate perfectionist, Danny, who was always pushing for something better. Audiences connected with the show immediately, and by its third season, Counting Cars had become one of the History Channel's highest-rated shows. Its success wasn't just in the drama or the custom jobs, it was in the authenticity. This wasn't scripted chaos or fake tension. These were real mechanics, real builds, and real stakes. Danny Koker himself didn't slow down. Outside of the show, his personal car collection grew to more than 100 vehicles, each restored with the same obsessive care he demanded in his shop. He launched multiple business ventures with his signature rock and roll flair. He opened Count's Vamped Rock Bar, a hot spot for live music and car enthusiasts. He opened Count's Tattoo Company to tap into Vegas's body art culture. He even fronted a band, Count 77, blending his love of music with his stage presence. But with all that success came pressure. The expectations inside Count's Customs became higher than ever. The team Danny built had to keep up with a global audience, tight deadlines, and multi-million-dollar projects. The stakes were no longer just about finishing a car on time, they were about protecting the brand. And not everyone could handle it. Over the years, Counting Cars gained a reputation, not just for custom builds, but for sudden employee exits, bitter fallouts, and a revolving door of employees who just couldn't live up to the standard Danny set. Some of these employees were fired, while others disappeared without official notice, and fans definitely noticed. What are the names Danny Koker has quietly distanced himself from over the years? And who are the employees who didn't make the cut? For fans watching at home, Counting Cars always felt like the perfect blend of passion and horsepower. You had classic rides, custom rebuilds, and a tight, knit crew who looked like they were just a bunch of friends doing what they loved. But if you peeled back the curtain, you'd discover things were very different behind the scenes. There was pressure, creative strain, and personalities that didn't always mesh. The bigger the show got, the harder it became to keep everything running smoothly, and unfortunately, not everyone was built for it. One reason for the tension was the reality of production. While each episode might only run 30 minutes, the projects themselves were anything but short-term. These were real cars with real issues, and every build had to meet Danny Koker's exacting standards. That meant months of labor, disassembling frames, custom welding, reupholstering interiors, hunting down rare parts, and painting everything to perfection. Unlike other reality shows that bend the truth for fast results, Counting Cars made it a point to stay honest to the work. That was their code. And what you saw on screen was a compressed version of reality, not a scripted fantasy. The builds were always legitimate, the repairs were authentic, and the pressure to get them done was overwhelming. Still, television isn't built on just the hard work of transforming cars, it's built on tension. And the production team behind Counting Cars knew it. While the work in the garage was real, the way it was edited often turned minor disagreements into major blow-ups. Conversations were spliced, deadlines were emphasized, and long days were made to look like last-minute scrambles. Over time, that kind of spotlight created cracks. Inside Count's Customs, Danny ran a tight ship. He was obsessed with quality. Every vehicle that left his shop carried his name, his reputation, and often a six-figure price tag. That meant no shortcuts, no half measures, and no room for laziness. Employees who didn't match his level of commitment were either pushed to step up or pushed out completely. That kind of intensity can make or break a team. As the show grew, so did the pressure. Fame only added fuel to the fire. What started as a family-style operation suddenly became a global brand. Millions of viewers were watching. Tourists started showing up at the garage. Fans wanted autographs. Customers wanted impossible timelines. And the employees, some handled the attention with humility, while others just couldn't. There were egos, rivalries, and moments when the tension in the shop had nothing to do with the cars and everything to do with clashing personalities. Some workers began to feel like TV stars, while others resented the ones who hogged the screen time. The same guys who once joked around during oil changes were now being mic'd up, monitored, and occasionally misrepresented on national TV. That kind of environment changes people, and for some of the team, it wasn't for the better. Behind the camera, Count's Customs also had to deal with legal and financial headaches that began to surface as the show progressed. When you're restoring high-value vehicles for wealthy clients, often under tight deadlines and public scrutiny, mistakes can get expensive. For Count's Customs, there were disputes over estimates, delays in delivery, and disagreements about modifications, and some of that ended up in court. While most of those issues were settled quietly, some cases became public, leaving a dent in the reputation of Danny Koker and his business. For Danny, this was more than frustrating. It was a reminder that success sometimes came with legal strings attached. By the time the show reached its peak, the tension had built into something heavier. Some employees started missing work, others made bad financial decisions, and one in particular ended up in a legal battle with Danny Koker. Every workplace has its quiet employees, the ones who stay in the background, don't make much noise, and rarely end up in front of the camera. But sometimes it's the ones you least expect who end up causing the biggest damage. On Counting Cars, that person was Joseph Frontier. While most viewers probably don't even remember his face, Frontier wasn't just another crew member. He wasn't welding frames or airbrushing flames, he was handling something far more sensitive than money. Frontier was hired as the company's bookkeeper to manage payroll, track expenses, and ensure Kustoms stayed financially healthy behind the scenes. In a business that revolved around high-end custom builds and multi-thousand-dollar budgets, his role was crucial. But in 2016, that quiet accountant suddenly became the center of a very loud controversy. Court documents revealed that Danny Koker's shop had filed a lawsuit against Joseph Frontier, accusing him of stealing more than $75,000 from the business. This wasn't just a case of rounding errors or minor overspending. The claims were specific, detailed, and serious. According to the lawsuit, Frontier had allegedly used the company's funds to cover personal expenses, including a hefty down payment on a Range Rover and multiple airline tickets for private travel. What made the allegations even worse was that he didn't just take money, he reportedly tried to cover it up. The lawsuit accused him of forging Danny's signature on several documents and misrepresenting financial records in a way that made the theft harder to detect. For a company that prided itself on trust, loyalty, and blue-collar values, this was a gut punch. Kustoms wasn't just a garage, it was a family. Or at least that's how Danny and his crew saw it. For someone in a position of responsibility to betray that trust so blatantly wasn't just unprofessional, it was personal. But Danny didn't just point fingers at the bookkeeper. The lawsuit also named the staffing agency that placed Frontier in the role, Randstad USA. The claim was that the agency had failed to properly vet Frontier or disclose issues from his previous employment history. Essentially, Kustoms alleged that Randstad sent them a ticking time bomb and then washed their hands of it. The lawsuit made headlines, especially among fans of the show. Viewers were shocked. While Counting Cars had always shown a bit of shop tension and the occasional personality clash, no one expected an embezzlement scandal to hit the crew. It was the kind of drama that didn't need editing to feel intense. Yet, if you watch the show carefully, Frontier's exit was handled with an eerie silence. There was no on-camera confrontation, no explanation from Danny, and no final goodbye. He simply disappeared from the series without a trace. The show kept moving forward, the builds continued, and the audience was left to put the pieces together based on court filings and media reports. What made it all even stranger was how effectively Frontier vanished from public view. Unlike some former cast members who later popped up on social media or in interviews, Joseph Frontier went completely off the grid. It was as if he'd erased himself entirely after the lawsuit came to light. Whether that was by design or just a reflection of the legal mess he was caught in, no one can say for sure. As for the legal case itself, the public documents indicate that the dispute eventually moved through the court system, but many of the final details remain sealed or unresolved in the public eye. Kustoms took the matter seriously, but Danny Koker never made a public statement about the incident, and that silence speaks volumes. For a man known for his big personality and love of storytelling, Danny's choice to stay quiet about Frontier might have been his way of drawing a line. Maybe he didn't want to give the scandal more oxygen. Or maybe for someone so deeply committed to loyalty, the betrayal just cut too deep to talk about. What's certain is this: Joseph Frontier's actions left a permanent scar on